Take a deep breath. Tune into the beating of your heart. And awaken to a fresh perspective. Welcome to See More with Morcie, your go-to podcast for discovering a centered path for your purpose. And what's up? My name is Morcie. I help entrepreneurs, leaders, and creatives just like you invite presence into both your personal and professional life. And I'd like to tell you how I invited a little presence into my life. I deleted my social media accounts of 30K plus followers to open up space for my creative flow. And I have no regrets. Absolutely none. When I first came to the conclusion that I wanted to create online, I'd done a bit of research and I saw a lot of encouragement about posting on as many platforms as possible. And at first I was like, no, I'm going to stick to one. I started off on YouTube and I said, I'm going to stick to one. And then after that, I was starting to see, I'm putting a lot of work into these videos. Researching, figuring out topics, getting over my insecurities of confidence. It was a lot of work, emotionally and strategically and mentally. And so I saw I was doing pretty good. I liked what I was seeing and I said, hey, might as well put it on Instagram. So I started putting it on Instagram. I started clipping up my YouTube videos and putting it out on Instagram. And then after a while, TikTok started to do its thing. And I said, hey, I'll post on TikTok too. And I also had a Twitter. So I was posting little things on Twitter, As a content creator, the importance of reusing your content, and little things you say, they fit and they reach different audiences and they reach a lot of people and it's helpful. And so I decided to go ahead and do that. And I'm not going to lie, I was pretty successful on TikTok. I had the most I've ever had. I got, at my peak, it was like 32K followers on there. Pretty decent. I really, during the pandemic, that's when I really got into it and the views were, pretty, I wouldn't say easy, but, the flow was there. Everybody was at home and most people were just on their phones and it was just a great time to be a creator at that time, If you know, you know. And so, I had a pretty big following on there and it was pretty cool. On my Instagram, I had about 3K. Maybe a little over 3K. I forgot the exact number. And, Twitter, about 200. I wasn't super on Twitter, but it was still very helpful. And I was finding people and talking to people, In many ways, the numbers, the higher the number, it's helpful, but not as helpful. It's not as important to focus on just because you can really find people, We'll get to that later. But like I said, I was successful, but eventually I started to burn out. It was a lot to create something and, upload a short on YouTube, then go and upload that same clip on Instagram and upload it on TikTok. All of those things, it takes a lot of energy. It seems simple, but when you have to put a description, you have to change the description for everything. Each platform has its own culture. Right? Each platform has its own way of being, and you have to fit your description and your content in a way that fits that. And so all of that was taking up so much energy and it was absolutely draining me. I honestly felt like I couldn't enjoy what I was creating. Obviously creating came naturally and it was so much fun, but I was losing out on really focusing on strategy and networking and speaking to people and getting to know other people on the platforms because I was juggling so much at once. And so the idea came into my head in a moment where I was burnt out, where I was just like, I wish I could just delete this, because the thing is that Instagram wasn't exactly my favorite, don't tell Instagram. All right. It wasn't exactly my favorite. It was cool. I met cool people, but we all have platforms that we prefer as creators. And, that was one where it came into my head where during moments, we go through the highs and lows of being a content creator. It's a little rough out there. And on my low, I was like, I wish I could just delete this. It was just an idea at the moment. I wasn't really going to do it because I knew how much work I'd put into it. And then my TikTok, I wasn't really thinking of deleting my TikTok until I came to that certain space where I was like, I can't do this anymore. Instagram was first. And, I decided, I said, I worked really hard on all of this. So I took some time to, I don't know if grieving is the word, but to settle into the idea. I would say it was about a year where the seed was planted. It took about a year for me to actually follow through with deleting it. And I didn't really think I was going to delete my TikTok. I thought, hey, you know what? I'll just keep it and just to have it. But even the idea of just keeping it just to have it and not posting on it, it felt like it was taking up rent in my mind. I just would keep thinking about the abandoned platform that I had. And for me, I'm the type of person where I don't like collecting things. I don't like having too many things. I love reading, I love books, but even then, I appreciate having my Kindle and having a couple books, a couple hard copies. I don't really like having a collection of things because it just makes me feel like I'm responsible for so many items. And that same energy was the same for those platforms. Even if I wasn't using them, it wasn't, it still didn't feel good to keep it, And also, here's a key point that I haven't mentioned yet as to why I decided to delete it. And that was because I was taking a bit of a turn into my direction with who I speak to and a little tweak on what I speak about. When I first started, I was kind of in a niche, right? I was speaking about spirituality, meditation, present moment awareness. I didn't exactly have a target audience because I was still figuring it out, right? We all hear, hey, find your niche. If you don't want to find your niche, up to you. But I knew my plans. I knew what my bigger vision was, and I knew the importance of narrowing down my audience. And that's what happened. I ended up, after so many years, I started in 2019, after so many years of being online, I started to realize who I wanted to speak to. And that was entrepreneurs, leaders, and creatives. I found that was my sweet spot because I feel so connected and I feel like I can really grasp on to the challenges and the visions and what we're really looking to see in life. And so those platforms didn't exactly consist of those individuals. Even now, I'm still in a period where I am shedding the old and welcoming the new. There's a lot of unsubs and new follows, and so far, everything's going wonderfully. I can't complain, but there's a lot of losing and gaining right now throughout my transition. So that was actually a big reason why I deleted both platforms, because I just didn't feel like putting in the energy to start working on switching the audience, coupled with juggling a lot. So that's a huge reason. So after having those seeds planted in my mind and just not feeling comfortable with keeping the platforms, and Instagram not being my favorite, TikTok I did enjoy as a consumer, but it was distracting me. I can't even lie. Like, when you are posting on a certain platform, I do think it's important for you to consume the content just so you can see the culture of the platform, so you can understand how people speak and what people like. It's important to have those little details when you're creating, right? When I create something on YouTube and I create my newsletter, there's still little slight tweaks to what I share, because someone who's listening to something or watching something is in a different space when they're reading something. So those are the little things you have to learn as a creator and as an entrepreneur and as a leader in many ways, how to change the language. And so it was important for me to be on those platforms. And so when I'm juggling several platforms like TikTok and Instagram and Twitter, it's taking up a lot of my time to be on there. And I could not, my creative energy, it was just so stuck. And there were so many moments where I just stopped and I wanted to give up because I was spreading myself too thin. For me, that is very helpful when you have a team. I'm doing this by myself. I'm figuring out a lot by myself. Of course, I've hired a coach. I had a couple courses that I enrolled in. Of course, I did all those things. But at the end of the day, you have to find out what works for you. All right. So it came the time. I did a little bit of the grieving process. It wasn't that long. And I finally just deleted it, and I felt so good. The moment I actually wanted to delete it as quick as possible, but I had to take my time, one of those moments you want just something to go so bad, but you still have to be a bit more patient because there's a bit of a process, or at least I found there was a process. So, I was like, I want to delete it. I just want to get it over with. But I wanted to make sure I sent a message out to those who are following me, letting them know where I am. And bada bing, bada boom, it was done. And I felt so free. It reminded me of the same freedom I felt when I quit my job and I quit grad school. It was the same feeling. It was a feeling of lightness. It was like, I'm not going back. This is absolutely the best decision. I know I'm not going to have this 30K plus followers anymore, but I know I can get back those who are actually aligned with my new perspective, with my new direction. And that matters way more to me. That quality, it matters way more. And once I deleted everything, I decided to stick to 2 platforms, and that's YouTube and Substack, as well as just putting my podcast on Spotify and all the other podcast platforms. And so once I did that, there were moments where I wouldn't say questioning it, but I was just like, I only have 2 right now. Where's this going to get me? I knew where it would get me, but I don't know. There was just a little bit of doubt there, but the doubt wasn't as big as the optimism I saw in it. And so now where I'm in this place where I'm just focusing on 2 platforms, I'm able to really master this. I'm able to really take my time when I'm uploading, taking my time to network and speak to people and check out other people's work and just really enjoy the process. I finally have found myself in a steady flow every day. I find myself in a space where there is space for routine and space for spontaneity, where it's keeping me focused and my creative energy is thriving. I don't feel drained. I don't feel doubtful. I don't feel as nervous. The nerves don't take over me like they used to. I feel focused. So less is truly more. When you have less, you focus. It's the same thing that happened when I decided to niche down more. Less is more. I have so many more ideas, so many more topics to share. I feel like I can share my story a bit more and be more open because I know the people listening are interested in hearing this because it relates. And I can just connect more to who I'm speaking to, right? That's so important as a creator. It's so important in many ways where we're building these parasocial relationships, right? It's important to learn how to navigate that. There's a trade-off for both, whether you're the consumer or the creator. So I don't find parasocial relationships to be either super good nor super bad, but it's just something that has manifested in this world of social media, and it's learning how to navigate it. So ultimately, throughout this whole process of the seed being planted in my head after feeling so burnt out and finally following through, I really feel so centered in my approach. This is where I came to this tagline for my podcast is a centered path for your purpose. I feel so centered. It takes time. It takes trial and error. And much of my time creating online is trial and error. And so if you're just starting out, being a creator, starting your business, take your time. Don't rush it. Everything that I've learned being on all those platforms, it wasn't a complete waste of time. I actually learned what platforms I didn't like and what I did like and what fit my vibe and what didn't. I learned I do prefer long form content as a creator and a consumer. I enjoy short form. It's just not my favorite, right? It's important for you to figure out what you like. In the beginning, I had a topic that I liked, but I ended up narrowing it down as I continued to move forward. Use the time that you have in the beginning. You have a lot less responsibility. There's a lot more space for you to create and explore. If you're just starting out, take your time, enjoy this moment, because as you get bigger, there are far more responsibilities. Even for me, I have work in the background. Everything is not all on, social media. There's little things I do in the background, not little things, a lot of things, but that you're not always seeing. So it's important to honor your journey, honor where you are in your journey, and make peace with where you are right now, right? Inviting presence in allows you to recognize, my creative flow is being blocked right now. I need to take a couple steps so that I'm not spreading myself too thin. All right. You're not taking any steps back, but you're taking time to recognize where your energy will get the most output rather than putting it in so many places and only getting so much back. It's important that you choose what makes you happy as a creator so you can truly connect with those who are connecting with your work. And those are the little things that I've learned, the power of inviting presence in, the power of honoring my authenticity and prioritizing my inner peace. It makes this job, it makes what I do so much better. So yeah, I deleted my social media platforms of 30K followers, and I feel great. I feel like a new woman. It's a new beginning for me. I encourage you to enroll, to subscribe. Oh my gosh. If you've been listening to my other podcast episodes, I keep saying enroll. Subscribe to my newsletter, The Enlightened Entrepreneur. If you find that you're in a space where you're just starting your creation or you've been in this for a while and you're really wanting to focus on being at peace with where you are and enjoying the journey and process, being okay with making these decisions, big decisions like the one I've made, subscribe to The Enlightened Entrepreneur so you can tune in to your being. This journey is not just a journey of strategy and execution, but it's a mental, emotional, and spiritual journey. And when you can honor that aspect of your journey, you allow yourself to feel fulfilled in each moment of the process. You recognize that the journey and the destination are the same thing. Have fun now. Life is now. Don't wait until you get 100 followers, 1,000, 100,000. Be here. This is life. You're a creator. You're an entrepreneur, a leader. Enjoy the flow. Feel the flow. And subscribe to The Enlightened Entrepreneur. And subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. My name is Morcie. I'm sending you peace, love, wholeness.